Yoga is very good, and my first ever yoga teacher, a woman named Veronica, who opened up one of the first yoga studios. Today there's a yoga studio just about on every corner in the Detroit metro area. But when I first started yoga, there was only one place to go, and that was a place called Center for Yoga, and it was offered by a pretty good yoga teacher, and he was teaching out of his basement, and out of his uncle's basement, I believe. And then my teacher started practicing there because she was in a bad car accident and she really messed up one of her knees. So she was doing physical therapy and she thought maybe if I did some yoga that would also help out. So she started practicing yoga primarily to resolve her knee issues, and she went on to really fall in love with yoga, and her and her husband opened up a nice little yoga studio, which is still here today, but Veronica uh, sold the business about 20 some years ago. But I had the pleasure of practicing with her for about the first 5 years that I did yoga. And the studio is still here. It's right here in Royal Oak, a nice little place. So yoga helps, and it not just helps us when we need to recover from a back injury, from a knee injury, from a hip injury, things like this. But we're all fortunate because we've been doing yoga for quite some time now. So it helps to speed any future recovery we may need, and it can help us as we get older. As we get older, the reality is that we start to think about end of life things. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And it's likely that not all of us, but some of us may face long hospital stays. I'm not trying to be morbid or anything, but it's just the reality. And it can help us to be more at peace and more at ease with these things, because it is just a reality. This body is going to decay and get older and older, and to a degree there's not much we can do about it, but we can stay as fit as possible, and that is also very important. That we, one of the principles of yoga, one of the founding beliefs in yoga, back from literally, this goes back thousands of years ago, is that this idea of doing what we need to do, certainly doing physical things to keep our bodies clean. Thousands of years ago, they had different ways of keeping the body clean. Of course, they didn't have the technology that we do today, but they still had practices. They called them the Shat Karma Kriyas. They had all these practices for internally cleansing the body, keeping the body clean, and keeping the surface of our bodies clean. And they did exercise, which eventually turned into yoga as we know it today, yoga asana practice. But they did all these, and also they did meditation practices to keep the mind focused and alert and things like this. And this was all done for one reason: to extend our life to its maximum capacity, whatever that is. We all have, if we look back on the history of human beings, we know that some people live to be very old. That there's cases of people living to be well over 100 years old, especially in India. There's a lot of cases of this. But we know that some people only make it 6 months. And some people, we know that teenagers pass away of different things, of car accidents, of course, but also something internal, some defect in the body and things like this. So we all have a maximum lifespan. And the idea is that we take care of ourselves, that we eat healthy, that we take care of this physical body, that we take care of our mind, we have a good attitude, We practice, refreshing the body with breath, and we extend our life to its full potential. So that's one of the nice things about it. And of course, it can help us when we're injured. We all, probably had some knee injuries and hip issues and back issues and shoulder issues and things like this, wrist issues, ankle issues. I'm working with somebody right now that had ankle surgery going on almost a year, I think, and she's still in quite a bit of pain, has some inflammation there. So we're trying to help her with some yoga, with some dietary changes to reduce inflammation and to get a little bit more movement into the ankles. And the ankles are one thing that we don't really think about too much when we're doing yoga, but the reality is when we're folding forward, when we're doing things like warrior pose, your foot is kind of at an outer angle, inner angle, flexed, extended. So these things can help, and it's certainly good for us to continue to do these type of practices all throughout our life. And like our excuse me, Abby and my primary teacher today, our friend from New Zealand, Mark Whitwell, says just do 7 or 10 minutes of yoga every day, and then add in some longer practices. If you're going to go to a studio, come to a Zoom session, you do something a little bit longer, 2 or 3 days a week. But his advice is to do at least a little bit of yoga every day. And the more we practice, and if we're really paying attention to what we're doing when we practice, it will certainly come to be that one day you'll be able to be any place. You'll be able to be outside in Naples, Florida, maybe in one of those couple of months that we have of actual summer here in Michigan, you might want to go outside into your backyard or on your deck and just sit for a moment, and you'll let your intuition recall what you know of yoga, and you'll start to do your own yoga practice. You might just do, and you'll do it organically, and you'll do it in a way that is, we could call it intuitive or instinctual, and you'll know my hips are a little tight today. I'll do things that feel like they'll open up the hips, or get the hip mobility moving, or maybe it might be the knees or the feet or the ankles or the shoulders, and we'll just learn to do those things intuitively. So that's the beautiful thing about yoga. And our teacher, as a matter of fact, the first book that I ever read on yoga, it's still a valid book and it's still available. It's a book by a man named Eric Schiffman, who had been practicing yoga since he was a teenager in England. And in the beginning of his book, it's a book called Yoga, the Art of Moving into Stillness. And it's a totally valid book on yoga posture and meditation. And he said, go through the whole book, learn all the postures, and then when you're ready to practice, you just sit, and what your body needs will come up organically and automatically, and you'll just do that, So you'll do the postures that you need to do. So, but it is also important for us to come together and do a group practice like we're going to do this morning. So namaste, everyone. Thank you for listening to my nonsense. We are going to start.